starts with a conversation, guys. And that's what today is about.
I'm not from Middlesbrough. I've worked here for 2.5 years. And I've worked in a lot of other areas, but I've never seen a community spirit that I see in Middlesbrough.
What makes me really proud of the area is how it kind of constantly punches above its weight. It was a town born out of the Industrial Revolution. It's at the forefront of the digital revolution. We've got a football club that performs way better than it should for a little old town of 140,000 people.
There's a lot of regeneration going on in the city centre, new office blocks, new bars, new restaurants, new hotels. We really need to use that regeneration and that economic activity to deal with some of the really big challenges that we have in some of our communities around health, around education, around isolation. So we had a regeneration strategy and a prospectus around that, and I'd suggested that we have a social regeneration strategy that would be around dealing with those people issues.
I'd heard about the social regeneration agenda that Middlesbrough Council were putting together, or that they'd been developing, and especially things like the community conversations that have happened and the intelligence gathering around communities. I find all that really interesting because it's the work that Ageing Better's been doing with older people, specifically around loneliness and isolation for the last few years. So I was really interested in talking to people in general about what is social regeneration, what does that mean, what does it mean for Middlesbrough, what does it mean for older people living in those communities, and what does it mean more broadly for organisations like Middlesbrough and Stockton Mind and for Ageing Better Middlesbrough, who have like a stake in this work and a stake in the communities in Middlesbrough and trying to support those communities to live happy, healthy lives.
So today came about with an understanding that if we are going to deal with some of those issues out there in our disadvantaged communities in particular, we couldn't do that alone as a council. How can we get those people in a room? How can we get them sharing ideas, challenging each other, and coming up with a way forward and a sign up to how people can take part in what we're trying to achieve?
It's implicit on us as organisations to actually go out and engage them where they are.
Making those communities happen and empowering people who live there to be the ones that are moving and shaking, but with some support. Because when we're at any of us start off, we need a bit of a hand to do that.
We decided, myself and Mick, to balance out some of the formality of things like agendas and prospectuses and strategies with an unconference, which would hopefully provide lots of different people an opportunity to come together and talk about what is social regeneration, what does that mean to you, how do we do this together, what are the issues, what are the barriers, what are the challenges. An unconference would give us an opportunity to have the people who really care about this agenda to shape it really up today. So it's about them shaping today's agenda. It's actually an opportunity to say, we can all get together in a room and we want to help, and how do we all share this agenda collectively?
I'm really interested in how we get to connect with the people we're trying to help.
What do we mean by empowerment?
How we might provide skills and employment and possibly new business opportunities around sustainable living.
How do we engage with people on their doorstep without facing stigma?
How can we have a rich partnership conversation that meets everybody's needs in Middlesbrough, but then changes our communities and our individuals to be the solution, really?
The council's launched a social regeneration strategy, but it's not something that needs to be council-led. And to see the voluntary and community sector putting on an event like today, to see the energy in the room, the ideas that have been created, that will lead to the changes to people's lives that we all want to see, is just fantastic.
Today at the unconference, it's been spectacular so far. It's basically a whole load of people who are invested in community development, who love Middlesbrough, in a room together, sharing ideas, trying to discuss some of the problems, the very real problems that we face here in this wonderful town that we live in. The atmosphere is one of partnership and collaboration, and so as we share different ideas, we realise that different people have different giftings and talents and resources that they can bring to the table, and actually together some solutions will hopefully be catalysed by today.
Once you can break those problems down and get people to understand how they can solve those problems and achieve that stability, that's when people then will be ready to engage.
You get people in a room who perhaps don't know each other, haven't met before, and you find there are lots of
similarities about what concerns and what they're interested in, and also they start to think about how they might work together more in the future.
I've got the opportunity to meet a range of people in a relatively short space of time and think about how some of our services might connect with each other. And I think the flexibility for conversations to flow has been really helpful. There's been a lot of different themes, a lot of different topics discussed already, that if we were in a more formal setting, or if we were in a meeting that had a set agenda, we wouldn't have had some of those conversations.
Conversations happening at the grassroots level is what will make the biggest change, in my opinion.
It's just about the community taking the lead, and we had some really interesting discussions there around how, if we're going to create a sustainable environment and therefore sustainable community, how that's got to be bottom up really.
It was interesting to sit down with lots of people and realise that we do some really good work, amazing work that we don't know about, and maybe that the answer for our challenges is each other.
I also think what has surprised me today is just how much commitment there is from the local authority to bring those individuals together with lots of people who work on the front line is really powerful.
I think the thing that I've learned more than anything today, and will certainly be taken away, is about attitudes to risk, and the fact that if we're going to make a real difference moving forward, in a world where there isn't loads of money and where people have got a lot of competing priorities, we just have to start doing things.
I think the next step will be just to continue to talk, but also I think what we can bring back to Middlesbrough is that we open to work together, inspire each other.
People are leaving now because the conference is finished, but I can still hear that buzz of conversation, those connections that have been made today. And I think that was what we'd set out to achieve.
People have been able to share their values, they've been able to celebrate the work that they've done. It was just open, honest conversation.
Two people had a conversation about this subject. We decided to do something about that. We attracted another group of people that became 5 or 6. And today we filled a room with 80 people, all having that conversation, but having their views challenged, having their learning developed, and hopefully going back into their workplaces and to their organisations and having that conversation. This is the beginning, not the end, but I'm really enthused about what I've heard today and about the energy that we've created. We need to keep that going.
We're very, very keen as a council on enabling communities and the voluntary sector to take control of their own destiny. We will be launching a fund to achieve that, and seeing the voluntary sector step into that space and not allow the council to take control as we naturally normally would is great, and I hope it leads to lots and lots of projects that can be put in place across Middlesbrough that make real difference to people's lives.
People came around the table and actually connected as human beings about what was important to them. We know that that's the way that community development works. We know that that's the way that regeneration happens, one person and one connection at a time, with just that one little, like dropping a pebble in a pond. You don't always know where the ripples land, but if you start to drop those pebbles, something good will happen.